Hello everyone, and welcome to another Plotly Dash video. In this video, we're going to be building on top of our last video where we started a Dash Stripe integration, where we are able to sell products in this Dash application that we created, where you can click the Buy Now button, it takes you to the payment page, and then you can actually purchase the product. So this is a really great functionality to allow you to monetize your work. And the way that I wanted to show this and build on top of it is to take our initial video that we just made and to start building out a analytics page. So this analytics page is going to allow us to use the initial stages of understanding how to show through a graph the revenue that we are seeing through our Dash payments. And as an admin, it's really useful for us to better get to know our customer, and it could be scaled out much further. But this is a base limited working example to kind of give you a bite-sized approach of just understanding the bare minimum to allow you to build on top of. So with this, I tried to break this down as far as possible. The way that I did this is I created this script alongside that specific page to kind of show you some of the things that we're going to be doing here and to give you the freedom to build out these endpoints a little bit further and to give you some direction. So what I did here is I created this script, which is about 280 lines of code, and we'll kind of show it in action and we can kind of work through it. So what I want to show you here is I'm going to run this analytics tutorial, and we can look at what was returned here. So this is the script above. Basically, we are checking to see if the API keys were initialized. Then we are basically going to be running the payment analytics tutorial, and we're giving some definition on that. We're going to initially fetch the data from Stripe. So we're going to give it a date range of what we are looking for in regards to the analytics data. And then we are going to call on the API payment intent, and we're going to list it out. So it's going to show us that it found 14 payments that have recently happened within Stripe. And then we're going to give a summary. And then moving down a little bit further, we're going to analyze the revenue data. This is going to consist of total revenue, total transactions, and average transaction cost. Moving down a little bit further, it's going to give the currency breakdown of how much money we have made over time after 14 transactions, and then it's going to give us the daily revenue analytics. Moving down a little bit further, it's going to give us the last 7 days. Moving down a little bit further, it gives the transaction time analysis. Then it's going to move to some other features that we could include to increase the Stripe features, but it's a little bit more advanced, but it's just a little bit of guidance and runway for you to take this and to expand it out further. So it's easy to export the data, especially whenever you're working with pandas. Basically, I'm grabbing the data frame and then I'm saying, hey, turn it into a .csv file. And this is how you could run that directly. And you can get a CSV file made, an Excel file made, or a JSON file made with the data that you were just showing through the analytics dashboard. So a little summary, and then it says that the tutorial was complete, and then it gives you some next steps that you can use to build this out further if you would like to get your hands dirty and to kind of explore this. This is a cool challenge for you if you would. So just to kind of show this in action, and we'll kind of run through this real quick, but I'm importing the things that I'm going to need for this: the operating system, Stripe, pandas, datetime.env, and that's all we're going to need. I'm reading in the Stripe API key, which is going to be similar to this right here. It's going to be the same layout, but it's going to be the .env is what it's looking for. And then you just replace this with your actual API key. So moving back into the tutorial, I create this initial function to fetch the data. This is going to fetch what we're going to be looking for. We're setting a date time for the range that it should be looking for. Moving down a little bit further, it's going to list those products within that date range, and then it's only going to list the first 100 orders. Moving down a little bit further, if it is successful, then it's going to enumerate through the orders, and then it's going to basically grab the relevant information, and then it's going to append that to a list, which is going to be this list right here. So it's going to grab the payment ID, the date time, the amount, the currency, the description, the customer, and any metadata, and that's going to build out this blank list right here. So with that, it's going to return a data frame. The data frame is going to be built on top of the list that we just showed, and that's going to be returned whenever this function is actually created. So after that, I have this analyze revenue data, which passes through the data frame that we showed. Whenever this gets created, then we can throw this into this function, and then it could run through these actions. It's going to see if there's data in the data frame. Then it's basically going to calculate the sum, the mean, and then the total transactions, so that we can use that to show the basic metrics. So you can look through the code and you can kind of see all of this and kind of get an idea. I left good comments on all the different sections, and it's a useful tool for you to better understand the API endpoint that you're working within. But this is an initial starting point, and if you would like more information, I also included this more information where you can click on this, which will take you to the Stripe website, and this is the payment intentions, so that you can get an idea of all of the API endpoints that you can hit in regards to the Stripe payment system. So with that, let's kind of jump into actually building out the application. So right here, I have my app page, which is going to consist of just building out the initial layout, bringing in the same imports. I'm initializing the application. I'm saying that I wanted to use pages so that whenever we go to render in this page right here, it will render. And then I am creating the navigation, which is going to be all this right here. Below the navigation, I am rendering the page, and then I'm running the application. So it's going to look for the page associated with this page right here, which has a /analytics. So whenever I go to the URL /analytics, it's going to render all this code within the actual page container right here. So with that, we can kind of get an idea of how this works. I am bringing in Stripe by using this little trick where I am referencing _main.stripe. This is happening in the app.py file as I am setting this to this right here, where it is basically grabbing the secret key. It's using main so that I have access to that secret key in all my different files, and then it's giving that the Stripe, which is going to be associated with Stripe. So moving down a little bit further to the analytics, as you can see, it's very similar to that script I showed where I have this fetch revenue data, where I'm going to be grabbing a date range for what I'm trying to fetch. I'm going to use Stripe payment intent and then list, where I'm going to grab the first 100 transactions. I'm passing through the date range that I'm looking for. And then for the product in the data, I'm going to run through this loop where I'm going to append the data into the revenue data right here. So I'm going to be grabbing the date, the amount, the currency, and the description from the payment data, which is going to be this right here. So this is going to create a data frame with actual data based on this actual list that was created. Moving down further, I have this create revenue chart, which is going to be the graph that I showed, where it's going to take in the revenue data. If there is no revenue data, then it's going to basically pass in an empty graph, and it's going to say no payment data was found. Now, if there is data, then it's going to basically group the data by the date, and then it's going to aggregate it by the sum and then the count. So with that, these are going to be the columns that it's going to use to build out the graph. I'm going to start off with a blank graph. Moving down a little bit further, I'm going to add a trace, which is going to be a go.bar, which is basically a bar chart where I'm passing in the daily revenue of the date and then the daily revenue of the revenue. So this is all in the columns. So it's going to look for those columns, it's going to look for the data associated with it, and then it's going to build out that bar chart. I get to provide a color, and I'm saying base it on the y-axis. And moving down a little bit further, I also added a line chart. This line chart is going to be used to kind of tell the volume that these products or the sales are seeing. So I add a trace to the same graph that I'm working on. I add a go.scatter, and then I'm providing the x-axis, the y-axis to date and volume. I'm giving this graph name, and then I'm basically giving it a color. So with that, moving down a little bit further, I update the layout. This is more just the design of the graph that I'm trying to render. I want the graph to have a title. I tell it that the x-axis title will be date. And then I'm just kind of cleaning it up a little bit, giving it a hover mode, specific height. I want legend shown, and then I kind of give some preference to how I want those shown. So then I create summary cards. Summary cards are initial overviews of what the data is trying to show us that we are fetching. Basically, total revenue, total transactions, and then average transaction. So these are going to be the three cards that are going to be created here, and you can see them right here, where whatever the total revenue is going to be used within the initial card that is created right here. The total transactions is going to be used in the next one. The average transactions is going to be used in the last one. So with that, initially fetch the revenue data. Then I calculate metrics for the actual use. So from the initial fetch of the revenue data, I am moving down and then I am setting up these variables, which are going to be used in this right here. So then I have the layout, which is the last part in all this. There are no callbacks in this that I've built out, but basically in the layout, I'm giving a title, I'm giving an error message if something goes wrong. I'm creating those summary cards, so it's going to just render this right here, or it's going to create these three divs in that one line of code. Then in the DCC graph, I'm passing through the figure that I created in that function right here. And then I'm creating some highlights, which are going to be basically showing some information from the data frame. So grouping by the amount and then the count and the max, grouping by the date, the amount, and the max, and then total transactions. So this is going to be the little footer of the application. And what we are left with once this is all said and done is this amazing analytics dashboard, which gives us insight into the sales that we are receiving through our products. And it's a starting point for you to start building off of. So with this, I hope that you find this useful and that this gives you a path forward to kind of start integrating payment systems into your Dash applications. And I will also include a GitHub repository, which will actually show all the code, and it will give you everything that you need to kind of start playing with the application and build it out further, or also look through the Stripe data and the analytics tutorial to get an idea of the endpoints and the ways that you can hit those endpoints to kind of start building out interactive dashboards around Stripe. So as always, build something amazing. Like, subscribe if you found this useful, and I will see you guys in the next one.